Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Dan Reviews It. This is Joe, of course,
Hey.
and I'm Dan. And this time around, we are reviewing the movie Krispy Kreme Presents Power Rangers.
That's very accurate. Best product placement ever.
I should have counted. If I knew it was going to be like that, I would have counted. But at least 10 or 12 times in that movie.
There's been some pretty damning product placement in movies. Like, I always thought the worst one was Man of Steel's IHOP, where he, throws them into the IHOP.
Yeah, true.
But this one where they literally make Krispy Kreme...
I mean, it's a plot point.
It's a plot point. It's the center of the plot is based around. You got to go to Krispy Kreme and save the world. Best donuts.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because I had Krispy Kreme recently for the first time ever.
Okay.
So I really liked them.
They are good.
I appreciate them. Great.
Yeah, I can't lie about that.
Video's probably not sponsored, but still great Krispy Kreme. That's Power Rangers, not us.
Well, anyway, so we did the Beauty and the Beast episode to intro the channel, but sort of off air afterwards, you and I were talking about, we do tend to agree a lot on different movies.
A lot.
And it would be, great to have,
disagree on
have a good back and forth. And I don't know your opinion of the Power Rangers movie, but you grew up watching the show.
It's true.
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I have... at least a different perspective going into the movie than you do.
Fair.
I don't know what your thoughts on it, good or bad, but certainly you are more rooted in the Power Rangers lore, the characters, all of that sort of stuff. I mean, it was on in my house. I had kid brothers, when it came on that were maybe 6 or 7 or whatever. I was in high school.
Great age for it.
Yeah. So I knew of its existence. I sort of knew, they were, Black Ranger, Blue Ranger, whatever. But other than that, not really much. So I guess let's hear about your thoughts first.
Okay.
Since you're a little more versed in it, and you can kind of, give your thoughts, and then we'll talk about it.
All right. Well, my thoughts about it are this. Well, yeah, you're right. I grew up with the Power Rangers. I loved it when I was a kid. I followed a bunch of the seasons. I'd say up to, Lost Galaxy. So, from the original season all the way up to, the early 2000s. So,
Okay.
so I was into it till I was, in my preteens almost. But then I kind of fell out of it. This one pretty much follows the main core Rangers that are most famous, Mighty Morphin from the 90s. You've got, I think, automatically for fans, there are a lot of things that made me smile. Okay.
I've heard that.
Here, we've got the Power Coins. We've got I with Alpha 5. We've got Zordon. We've got the Zeo Crystal, which is a nod to the second series, Power Rangers Zeo, which is the source of all the Power Rangers' power. Classic Rita Repulsa. You've got the putties. You've got subtle lines make sure you hit him in the middle of the chest, because in the show, if you hit him in the middle of the chest, well, Lord Zed's putties, they'd explode.
Oh, okay.
So, you can tell there's little things here and there, and, Billy Cranston, here's a fun thing I didn't know until this movie came out. As obviously Bryan Cranston plays Zordon in this movie.
Yes.
And he did that specifically because he wanted to be in it, because Power Rangers is how he got started doing voiceover work for the monsters.
I heard that.
And I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
So, in a way, that's kind of great that we got a good actor, in my opinion, doing a good job with what he had, as always. So there was that. A lot of little things. And, of course, some of the similar tropes were kind of for all the different characters. Jason's the leader. You've got Billy was kind of the geeky one. You've got Kimberly and Trini and Zach. Remembered them all. Yes.
Nice.
Nerd points succeeded. Someone would kill me out there if I got it wrong. No.
Yeah, true.
So I remember the classics, of course. And so there's definitely some stuff there that I thought was fun. So for the fans, I think if you grew up with it, you'll like it. I wasn't sure right off the bat if it was necessarily for kids now, because they start off the movie with kind of a hinted at dirty joke that I was like, okay, young kids won't pick up on that, but that's pretty racy for a kind of a family movie. But it's in the same vein as Turtles, where...
Yeah, he talks about the hardening of his shell when he sees April O'Neil.
Yeah, that's even worse.
I thought that was a pretty blatant joke.
Yeah. So, okay, there's stuff... So I kind of like that. One thing I honestly thought was a good positive about the movie is that if you know anything about Power Rangers, if you want me to be technical, in terms of characterization, this is where the biggest improvement was. I'm not saying that in none of the Power Rangers series since they have not tried to make their characters more complex, but in the original the original live-action cartoon, basically, these kids were cheesy actors who were usually one-dimensional. They were all the best of the best kids, really great. They'd go community service all the time.
Oh, wow. So this is turns it on.
This one is the edgy, dark.
Right.
We give our characters complexity. We give them some problems. Is it the best stuff ever? No. But for Power Rangers, where they basically had virtually nothing, it's quite different. Like there was some decent drama here.
Okay.
Like I felt for some of these characters, and I'm glad that at least some of them weren't just cardboard copies.
Right.
Mostly, I think the best development, of course, is the leader character, and I guess kind of Kimberly, but really I think everyone seems to love Billy, who's sort of autistic, awkward, and he's memorable. He's fun. I liked him. He was always the geeky one, but they took it a step further. Zach and Trini, much like in the show, are just kind of like, hey, cool girl, you're the cool one.
Pretty boy.
He's pretty
cool
boy.
Cool girl.
And they give them a little bit,
yeah,
which is fine. I'm glad they did, but that's basically nothing compared to the other ones. So there was a little bit more development there. But that's really the biggest improvement. I think that a lot of fans might dislike the fact that you don't really get to see them be the Rangers until like the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And even then, a lot of the action's really quick because one of the key components is they're great martial artists. You take a guy down with a big kick or two with CGI putty things that just fall apart. I'll say this much. I thought Elizabeth Banks, it was interesting because everybody was trying to be more serious, and she was, I guess, creepier than Rita Repulsa, but she's still playing the campy, over-the-top witch, ha ha ha. And I'm like, I don't know if it necessarily jives with the rest of the movie, but at least she's being true to the spirit of it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she looked okay.
Okay.
Goldar, pardon me, Dan, was a bastardization. I would rather have seen Goldar in a suit of armor and his little wolf face than the weird, ugly CGI monstrosity. I mean, I guess creating a monster out of gold is cool. It's in line with a plot that would have been in one of the episodes.
Right.
Rita will make a monster out of gold and take all the gold from the world. So I'm like, in line with her way of thinking, crazy or campy, however you want to look at it. But I didn't like the way he looked, and I thought the big battle was okay with the Zords, but the Zords look kind of like the Transformers. They're kind of ugly, kind of gray. One of them looked like a Triceratops, but that's the only one I could tell. One was a T-Rex. It was hard to distinguish.
Yeah, one was definitely a T-Rex.
Which ones they were. For sure. Some of them kind of blended. So there were little touches I didn't necessarily like with that I think could have been better. But like I said, the characters themselves and how they worked with each other, I think I liked most of them. I liked their stories. I liked their arcs. I just kind of wish that most of the Power Rangers action wasn't rushed in the last 20 minutes. And why, like all these action movies now, why is everything shot in the dark? Why is everything
very
gray?
dark?
Power Rangers, if nothing else, is colorful. And, you barely see the suits, and they don't look that great anyway. But, I mean, why don't we get some color? I mean, even, that's stylistically, I hate a lot of movies that do that now. So, overall, it was a lot better than I was expecting.
Okay, so you weren't really expecting much at all.
No, I was expecting garbage.
Okay.
And I thought, hey, in all honesty, if I'm being really technical, in terms of the stuff that matters for making a movie or a story, it's technically better than the original Power Rangers season. Okay. That's probably sacrilege, but then again, that was aimed at 5-year-olds, campy, silly, obviously guys in costumes. And that stuff, which I'd argue you could say is the spirit of it, is kind of missing. Yeah. So I took both of those into account. Okay. So I liked it kind of, but it's by no means... let's put it this way. In terms of like things that have been adapted from my childhood, this is pretty high up on the list. It's no Transformers.
Well, yeah.
It's not unwatchable.
That's always terrible.
Yeah. But what do you think about it?
Well, okay, so I guess we'll start with the style, since that was kind of one of the last things you said. It is very dark. But first of all, it's funny that it's from the director of Project Almanac, which I thought right from the start, because when the first trailer came on, and they were shown like jumping over the cliff in that one scene, and then they showed the camera angle from like up top when they were doing the circle and stuff. I actually thought it was a Project Almanac sequel. So like I don't even know the guy's name, to be honest, but I hated Project Almanac.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
His stamp is obviously doing the same thing here in both movies, because I really thought it was a Project Almanac movie. So hated the style of that. Hate the style of this, not because of its, Power Rangers-ness, but because I didn't like it. It didn't work for me in Project Almanac, so it doesn't work for me here.
Honestly, if they were trying to do something that was more Power Rangers-esque, you probably would have thought it was more like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Probably. So there's this big, like, who is this movie for?
That's a good
because
question.
You mentioned that, like, well, if they were doing, for 5-year-olds, that watched it growing up, whatever.
Me.
You, versus 5-year-olds now. Like, my biggest issue with it is, honestly, the fact that it is PG-13. We talked about this with the Turtles, too. And I think this goes, further than that because there's, like, a lot of cursing in this movie. Not F-bombs, but, they say words for sure.
Yeah.
And then there are the risque jokes. Or there's a joke about sexting.
Yeah.
They're definitely, like, trying to push the envelope to...
Teens?
To deal... I guess...
But teens aren't going to be watching Power Rangers now.
But it's still on, so I guess they're...
People can still grow up with
People that are teens still grew up with it, 10 years ago or whatever.
True.
8 years ago. So I guess maybe... And then there's the disconnect that you mentioned also between the Rita Repulsa character and the rest. Now,
she's like in a different movie.
She is, but it's the movie I wanted to watch.
Which is what it probably should have been.
She was the most entertaining part of this movie.
She's pretty entertaining.
To me. Now, I'm a Banks fan.
Yeah.
But Cranston, too. I mean, Cranston was not as campy as her.
Pretty serious.
He was more serious, but, having those two A-list actors do something like this where, first of all, none of the kid actors are even remotely...
on that level.
Up to being in that scene with either of them,
No.
And then also, right, like, it's trying to go for this real dark tone, almost a Marvel-esque tone, where, like, there is some jokes, but it's also Marvel-y.
Along with Project Almanac, what I kept thinking it was aligned with? I felt like I was watching Chronicle.
Yes, that's another one. Yeah, same type of style, camera-wise. I don't think that's the same guy, but it may be.
Similar.
Yeah, it's definitely similar style, similar look, tone, all of it. You're right. So I just left kind of wondering who is this movie even for, because I feel like the people that grew up watching it, like yourself, and everybody that grew up watching the original, like in the 90s, are not necessarily old enough to have kids old enough to watch this movie.
No.
So unlike other things, like a Transformers, I guess, where you grew up in the 80s watching it, and then you can bring your kids to it, when they're 8 or 10 or whatever. Even Turtles, to some degree, because that's early 90s, late 80s, when it started. So I feel like they sort of missed...
a mark.
Yeah, like, something there. But, yeah, so the acting is terrible from the children. I do agree that some of their character development was interesting. However, like you said, nothing groundbreaking. It's not, going to break the mold. It's very standard.
But I assure you, if you watched, like, the original Power Rangers movie from 95...
Oh, I'm sure it's completely one note.
And if you thought the acting was bad in this, then,
But see, that's
campy, though.
And that's what I didn't kind of feel with this. Like, I felt like those actors were actually trying to give good performances and not campy performances.
True.
Whereas Banks went for pure camp and succeeded with it.
I agree.
But I feel like the youth actors really thought they were in
some serious
this
thing.
like this gripping serious movie. Now I'm not saying they thought they were going to get Oscars for their
No,
roles.
I don't think their acting was terrible.
No,
but,
it wasn't.
But when you compare it to a Cranston or something,
right, not quite up to it. And then Bill Hader is the I don't want to say the robot. Is he a robot?
Yeah, well, they said android.
Android, yeah. Okay. And then he was in like a third movie where he told Bill Hader type jokes.
he was kind of more meta humor, like about the whole thing.
Right.
Okay, this is the thing. I don't. To be honest, I didn't mind him because Alpha
I was okay with it, but he just didn't
jive.
It just none of the pieces jived with each other. And then there is the matter of not like any action until really the end. I mean, there's a car chase a little bit.
3 car accidents in this movie with that slow, like upside down thing. Like
right.
I thought just one was enough, but then they did it again. I'm like, they must really like
That's
shooting
true.
that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'll have to go back to Project Almanac and see how many car accidents were in
that slow motion car flip from the inside.
Yes. So yeah, I didn't really like it that much. It was okay.
Yeah.
And I can see from a fan's perspective,
Yeah.
how it was definitely serving the fan, because there were tons of things I didn't get. You know, most of them you mentioned.
Yeah, but I think serving a fan also has to be stylistically a movie.
Well, it does, and I feel like that's a problem that a lot of these, you know, I don't want to say remakes, but
modernizations.
Film modernizations of old TV shows or cartoons. I feel like
they miss that.
Yeah, like there's we've seen great ones. 21 Jump Street.
Yeah,
and the sequel there, the Brady Bunch movie was done very well. And then we've seen it done horrible too, like a Starsky and Hutch, or something like that, or Transformers. To go back to that.
Yeah.
So this wasn't as bad as the Transformers.
I don't think so
at all. Like I got through it. I wasn't like
you didn't want to like look away constantly.
But I do have to say a big part of that was the Banks villain. Just that campiness that I kind of wanted to see, because I know Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was a campy show.
Yeah.
Like I said, my brothers watched it. I would, pass by the living room, it would be on. Okay, it's camp. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they should have gone a little more in that direction and less in like, let's do Batman v Superman style here.
Yeah, it's more what it was trying to emulate. But I feel like they were trying, like they throw in some corny jokes and stuff.
Yeah,
and it's Morphin time. Like, but when they did that, I'm like, why'd you say that? Like,
yeah,
it's because you're supposed to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they randomly kicked on the Go-Go Power Rangers for 5 seconds.
I enjoyed that, but yes, it was out of nowhere and ended immediately.
Yeah, it's like that's what we want to see. That's what you get the crowd cheering for. Like, yeah, they're finally in the suit. And the music was weird too. Sometimes you'd have
actually, that's a good point.
Like a lot of it had this like sort of a regular score with classical music, and then you had techno, and then you had like random hip hop.
Yeah,
like what?
That's a metaphor for the whole movie. Like, it just doesn't know
what direction,
where it wants to go with the property. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, if you're a fan, I'm sure you'll like it more than I did.
I think, like, as a fan,
like, no doubt.
I could tell you, and all my friends were like kind of hating on it initially and not looking forward to it, because what do we have to look forward to with these sort of things?
Right.
But honestly, with virtually no expectations, it wasn't that bad. For me.
And that's a good selling point for a movie like this, when you do think it's going to be the worst.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you should know, though, that they're probably not going to try to make it as campy as the original. They're going to try to widen the audience a little bit.
Yeah.
But I liked some of the jokes. I liked some of the references. I thought the characterizations weren't bad. I thought the main unity...
Yeah, I thought it was interesting enough
to keep you interested
for what the characters did and everything.
But like I was pretty interested, and then that climax was like, I was looking at the time and I'm like, there's only 20 minutes left of this movie for all the action to take place, and it all felt kind of rushed anyway. Yeah,
I agree. They could have spurred it out a bit more, which also, if they were trying to emulate a DC movie, for example, that's like a Man of Steel issue for me. It's like, they cram all this action into the last 30 minutes, and then the first 2 hours were possibly interesting, but...
You're building towards that.
I'm watching a Superman movie for action sequences, not,
moping.
Not moping, not, Kevin Costner
holding up his hand
up, which I did love, but...
It's a good scene.
Yeah. So, alright, well, I leave the Power Rangers with a C.
I'm actually only a little bit higher than you. I just have a C+.
Is that right? Okay.
I was teetering on a B-, but I'm like, there's some issues.
Okay. But, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely giving it the benefit of the doubt. Because I have no background. I expected not to really know anything about anything. And they don't really tell you much about anything.
They do, but just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah. Because obviously they expect... most of the people watching this movie will already be in the fan base, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't mind them going for something more serious. I just wanted a little more action, a little better directed action, and more Rita Repulsa.
I wanted all Rita Repulsa.
Like she was cool.
I wanted the Repulsa movie.
Like her character background were interesting. I wanted to learn more about it, and like I feel like there was some good stuff there that was kind of glossed over.
Well, other than that opening scene, she doesn't show up again for at least half the movie. Yeah.
And then she starts popping up at school.
Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah, she wants gold.
Jewelry store scene was great.
It was great. She starts eating necklaces and stuff. And she's like, I'm interested in gold.
Yeah.
And she goes to Krispy Kreme and eats a donut.
Well, everyone does in that movie.
Yeah, so... No, I mean,
no one plays.
It wasn't bad.
Okay.
I could watch it again. I wouldn't be opposed to
I
that.
don't think I would want to watch it again. To be honest.
Well, I wouldn't expect you to, but
yeah.
I mean,
but for what it was like okay.
I think if you were open-minded and you grew up with it, I think you could go into it and find some things you'd enjoy.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's much more for the fans than anybody else.
Which is
probably the right way to go about it.
I'd say that's a problem, personally.
You think?
Well, I mean, there's two different ways you can do it. You can do it to please those fans or try to get new people into it. But then again, Power Rangers is on every Saturday or whatever.
Yeah, it wouldn't be hard to
Keeps
convert new people.
Yeah, it's going to keep on going. So
yeah.
It's not really going to hurt the Power Rangers legacy.
No.
You know, but it's all right. Maybe they'll get another go and
I would imagine they will. I think it's done well enough.
Yeah, if they can learn from it and build it up a little, I think it might be all right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this edition of Dan Reviews It. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.